look who I have here.
What a delightful
Oh,
coinky
what a quick! You come here often?
Yeah,
Is this where?
every once in a while, like to show up here. But how are you feeling, buddy?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, indeedy.
Finding myself in this dusty, wonderful, dank archive full of all the wonderful
Musty,
things we talk
yeah.
about.
Hey,
You
welcome to
know,
you,
you, yeah.
acolytes and
Oh, hey,
apprentices. Look at that. We have all of our people back here.
all right.
Aw. Sorry about again. We took a little bit another of a slight hiatus again. Life has been lifing quite a bit, hasn't it, Sammy? So
Oh,
it is
oh, oh, yeah.
it has been lifing.
But
Whoo,
no matter
buddy.
how much that life does life, indeed, I'm happy to say welcome back, everyone, if you're tuning in today to the Arcane Archive.
Arcane Archive!
um, we're getting right back into the thick of it as we tend to do.
Into the thick of it.
Yeah, right back into our favorite. Just it's habit forming at this point, but just fueling our love of unfortunate internet tales, cringe-inducing chronicles. It's Cautionary
This is
Chronicles
the
episode again.
Cautionary Chronicles, you guys. We
It's
have got
happening.
quite a salacious, delicious slew of stories for you today, I must say. I think we're gonna have quite the fun time. Just honestly, I feel like the theme for today is that we've knocked it up a notch. You know what I mean? Like we've got some quite the, at least in my opinion, rage-inducing seasoning. Indeed. Like this is gonna be some rageful cringe, I think, today. Personally, anyway. I haven't looked through all like yours too much that you chose, Sammy, rather thoroughly, but like the ones I got are definitely like sitting here just like going like, ooh boy, I oughta just straight to the Omicron Percy I ate. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, ugh,
Yeah,
goodness.
I'd say mine are pretty frustrating, and or it's stuff that we like to talk about. Definitely some not necessarily debates, but discussions that we like to have, which
Absolutely.
I always have a good time with.
Those are always the primary modus operandi here is we like to try and bring stories that, would elicit discussion and a little bit more, deeper thinking on, hey, how do we feel about this in general? Do we feel like this is justified? If it's absolutely not justified, which is a lot of the time, to be perfectly frank, what are some ways that we could either help to like, cut it off at the knees, or even if you can't cut it off at the knees, navigate through, because as always, there are plenty of extenuating circumstances that we as, third party readers are not privy to per se. We don't know the full true dynamics and circumstances and situations of all the people involved here. You just never know. But it is always fun to speculate and to give our own personal theories and opinions of how we would maybe act and feel in situations like these. And, that's how we all get better, right? We always theorize, we kind of take these moments and we empathize with one another. That's what we love to do here. You know what I mean? We love to try to breed more empathy, as it were.
Oh, definitely. With that being said, for those of you who stick around because you like to hear us talk, thank you.
Always
Um,
appreciated.
please don't hesitate to like or leave a comment if you want to continue seeing what we do here or have any opinions on what we do here. We're happy to hear them. Um, but I don't want to wait too long to get right into it. And if there's anything else you don't,
No, I believe you got it, my friend. By all
all right,
means, let's
I will start
dive
us
right
off
on in
today.
here.
I will start us off today. A wonderful story. A year and a half campaign has fallen apart because of the DM's behavior by a faux 10 kilometer. Um, I I'll preface this by saying I don't think it's just the DM in this, but they're definitely not good at what they're doing at all.
Okay,
But
okay.
it's an interesting story. It's a little long, but I will get through it as best I can. I've always listened to these stories, never thought I'd be writing one myself, but my group's long-running year and a half campaign that completely crumbled due to Doom's behavior, so I thought I would post this for others' morbid curiosity or entertainment. For some background, this is a D&D 5e 2014 campaign that started in early 2024, and there were 7 people
Ooh.
total that played at the table. We played once a week pretty consistently throughout the campaign. The DM, a longtime friend of mine I've known for about 5 years. I've been in one of his campaigns before, but that didn't really go anywhere. Me, a druid rogue multiclass that will be referred to as Drogue, I seem to have had the worst time with this DM and was one of the three who brought up leaving, leading to the inevitable crash. Ranger A, one of our two rangers, who also had a major issue with this DM that will be touched on, that this was his first campaign. He is the second party member that brought up the idea of leaving the campaign. I met him at the start of this campaign. Ranger B, our second ranger, she is my best friend of 7 years and joined the campaign about a year in. She is the third player that brought up leaving. Paladin, one of the louder players at this table, I met her at the start of the campaign. Monk, she did not show up consistently due to outside factors, but she does have a role. She joined a few months into the campaign. This is her first campaign. The Bardlock, they are a tiefling, semi-important. The second loud player at the table, this is also their first campaign. The campaign
Okay.
started off in a local game shop where most of the group met. DM, Ranger A, Paladin, Bardlock, and me, plus a few others who didn't stick to the campaign after we transitioned to a player's house for a small handful of reasons. Everything was all fine and dandy for a while. We were all getting along well, and we had no issues. In between the move to the player's house and the first issue, our monk joined the party, which brings us to issue number one. Issue number one, we were fighting what was considered to be one of our first bosses, and we had two little kobold buddies that were practically lent to the party. As the party killed the flying boss, it fell down directly above our NPC kobold friends. The DM asked the party if anyone was willing to sacrifice themselves to save the two kobolds. The monk stepped up and pushed the kobolds out of the way, and in doing this, the monk instantly died. The bard at the time, soon to be Locke, in response cried out for someone to help the monk, and the demon of their lineage came to their call. He offered to deal as demons do, which would have been devils, not demons, unfortunately. When the bard, I don't know if they know
Yeah, they
that
might be
or
playing more homebrew thing where there might be
it.
more
Yeah, or
interchangeable
they're just
potentially.
using the wrong word. It doesn't really matter that much. When the bard, again a new player D&D, probably less than 4 months playing at this point, accepted the deal. The DM forced them to multiclass into Warlock, not only taking away a level in Bard for it, as our party was using Milestone level up, but putting a player already struggling with understanding the mechanics of their Bard into a complicated multiclass. The DM did not warn the player in advance that this would happen, and did not discuss it after the fact either. Then later down the line, the DM had them switch Warlock subclasses because a Fae entered the picture as their patron, giving them a whole different set of Warlock abilities and taking away the Fiend abilities. Yeah, to no fault of their own, this player never got an understanding of their character all the way until the session they retired the Bard Block.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge no-no right off. You can't just
it's
start.
it's not a no-no to do the multi-class thing. It's about how you do it, when you do it, if you talk to them about it.
I mean, well, I'm saying it's a huge no-no for the GM themselves to be just arbitrarily like enforcing or exchanging like, hey, you get this class or this class or this subclass. This it's like that's not. You don't. No GM gets to decide that for a player. That
Unless
is.
you and the DM, like you as a player and the GM have an agreement being like, you can do shit like that because I don't care.
Yes.
Um,
But again, that's still technically the player making that decision
yeah.
themselves. Like the GM under no circumstances has the veto power to just start throwing or exchanging classes for a player without their consent or after we had like that's just not that is not a thing
No.
ever.
Issue number two. The DM refused to let Ranger A retire his character for like 200 plus days. How do I know this? He posted his own Reddit post about his character. Ranger A originally played a different character, as it was his first character in his first campaign. He was learning what he liked about what style of play. The English is bad. I'm sorry. He was learning what he liked and how he wanted to play. He very quickly figured out within the first few sessions that he did not like his original Warlock, so he switched to Drake Warden Ranger. Within a few months of playing Ranger, realized he was not enjoying playing his character. At this point, in that in the party, there were 4 to 6 characters that were front lines, and the player wanted something more strategic than classic barbarian I go hit. Ranger A also brought up the concern his character was stronger compared to the rest of the party, as he was more optimized than the rest of the PCs, which he felt bad about. The DM originally thought to raise the AC of all the enemies. Listen to this. Raise the AC of all the enemies and debuff Ranger A. But Ranger A saw that as a terrible idea and talked him out of it. Eventually, Ranger A and the DM landed on buffing the rest of the party with magic items.
Oh!
This
What
will
an
come back.
option.
This will come back later. Again, originally Ranger A asked to retire, but the DM said no the first time, so Ranger A stuck to his strength-based Drake Warden. Ranger A asked 3 more times over the course of 8 months to retire this character, resulting in a no again, and after we get to your character's arc, and a okay after this dungeon. He eventually got retired after I stepped in when the Bardlock got their character retired within a month of asking. Ranger A waited over 8 months to retire their character and did not enjoy it in any way, not in combat, and not even in the parentheses very slim amount of parentheses role play. Um, Only for the Bardlock to ask and have their character killed off within 4 sessions. We will touch on this too.
Okay,
So,
this
so
this is
so
this
to
is
premise, they wanted to stop playing this character, which is fine. It happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's hard because sometimes you have this idea of what a character's going to be
And it
or
just doesn't really
the play
connect. It
style, and
just
it doesn't
doesn't
ring
kind
true.
of,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, it happens absolutely.
um, there's always you can always change stuff about your character, but some DMs limit that. Um, there is the way like I just don't understand why you'd be like, no, you can't retire a character. Um, it doesn't really matter that much.
Like
But yeah,
there's always a way to do it. Like you don't like I get it. Sometimes it's like, yeah, oh, if you put in a lot of time with this character and you're like, I made all these plans specifically with this character in mind or whatever. I understand it from a GM perspective as well. I get that. But again, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, obviously on one point, it is kind of important to be like, if it's in regards to like the main story, maybe don't base it too entirely much off of like you know, especially if they're like new players, right? If they're veteran players, you can probably get away with much more often making like the story much more directly connected with these specific characters here, of course, because that's veteran players usually know what they want to play pretty often and are pretty down for that. Newer players, obviously, if it's the first ever campaign, they might not really understand or get a full feel for what they're truly trying to do or want, and they're still figuring it out. They're going through some growing pains here or there. So you should probably leave a little bit more room and leeway for them to kind of switch it up. Hell, especially like hey, let's not even talk about the hypocrisy at work here with this GM literally switching up the fucking bard locks, whole thing constantly where you're just like, whoa, wait a minute, you're just throwing shit at me now. Where this isn't anything that I asked for or wanted specifically. Like, what the fuck? Like, but now you're gonna literally take a ranger 8 months for them to change the character. Like, that's just not how that works. Again, acolytes, apprentices, if you want to change your character, 100%, yeah, you should work with the GM. But also, if you want to change your character, you can just change your goddamn character. You know what I mean? Like the GM doesn't get to just say no. You can't do that. You know what I mean? That's I'm sorry. Like that. Yeah, yeah. You like the same way that you as a player can't just be like, yeah, I'm a new character now and bring that new character now without talking to the GM at all, right? You can't do that, obviously. But the same way that the GM also can't just say like, no, you can't. You have to play this character now for the rest of this entire campaign. Like that's not how that works either. You know what I mean? Literally, like how this game is designed, it's a cooperative game. You gotta talk, you gotta communicate, you gotta cooperate with each other, right? You gotta be like, hey, GM, I'm not really having fun with this character. I would like to switch up and do something else. And the GM needs to be like, understood, I hear you. Let's work together to see how we might be able to like coherently as possible anyway, maybe like switch out your other character. Like, are you cool with them potentially being killed off? Do you want them to kind of just like maybe switch out for a bit? Like how Critical Role did it with Scanlan, right? With Sam. Sam wanted to try something else for a bit. They had still in my opinion, maybe the best role play moment in all of Critical Role, arguably. That whole blow up that Scanlan had about what's my mom's name, that whole monologue, that whole thing there, still arguably one of the absolute best moments, which led to him leaving for a bit, and then bringing another character. There's always stuff like that you can do, that's the beauty of this game. It's just so free flowing. and pretty easy to be able to conjure up moments and things like that if you want. So there's really no excuse to being like, yeah, I'm just bringing in my character because I want a new character. Or just being like, no, you cannot bring a new character ever because I want you to play that character forever now. This is not how it works. This is
Yeah.
continue to go, please, Sammy.
um, issue number 3. When Ranger B was introduced to the campaign a year in, this was agreed on by everyone in the party. Awesome. Love that. I wish more people did that. Um, the DM promised to have Ranger B introduced by the end of the first session. Each of our sessions lasted 4 hours, so Ranger B was expecting some wait time, but 4 sessions went by, and Ranger B had failed to be introduced. Ranger B had to ask to be introduced at the beginning of the dungeon because she was so tired of waiting. Ranger B waited an entire RIL month sitting at the table watching everyone else play. 16 hours of gameplay. She even had an introduction retcon before that, but instead of the DM sticking with it, she had to be randomly dropped into the dungeon. On top of that, the DM never worked with Ranger B in a backstory, and when Ranger B asked the DM to come up with a backstory because they were at a loss, the DM agreed and then completely forgot about it. It came up later when the big boss was trying to bribe the character with their quote greatest desire. The player didn't have anything to say for what their character desired, and the DM acted confused on why they didn't have a backstory. She was practically stuck playing a character build for 5 months. Yes, we were in a dungeon for 5 months. Yes, 20 sessions on a dungeon. Yes, it was painful. Issue number 4.
Oh, Lord.
Now we get to the DM interacting with me and my character. I have several bad experiences of the DM shutting down my ideas, shutting down abilities of my character, and targeting me as a player. One example is my Rraaghh was trying to steal a magic item from a traveling cart. They were invisible and managed to sleight of hand the item away from the shopkeep and run off. Our monk, seeing this, chased after, and there was a call for 3 separate skill checks throughout that encounter. Every single time my d20 plus modifier rolled higher than the monk's d20 plus modifier, but every time the DM allowed the monk to use a DM inspiration to add a d8 to all 3 rolls. The monk had a tendency to hoard inspiration. Not how inspiration works.
Not at all. At least not DM inspiration.
No, not in the system that you guys are playing.
That's not how that works in the slightest. That is completely incorrect.
The only issues with this is that for the entire campaign up until then, DM inspiration had to be used before the results had been called on a roll. Every single time when it had come to light that my drogue had outrolled the monk, the DM would suggest they use one of their inspirations to beat my roll. You can imagine this was extremely frustrating, to a point where I had to excuse myself from the house to get away from the situation. The DM also had admitted on several occasions that he set my DCs higher than the other players for the sole reason that I was the one making the rolls. He told me he would try to do better and apologize, but he never changed it.
What? What kind of excuse is that? You say you do better. You're the one setting the DCs actively. What are we talking about here?
On several occasions, he had me roll an insight check using charisma, so pretty much what, PB minus one.
Proficiency bonus -1.
Yeah. And I failed this check multiple times throughout the campaign. In the final session, the group had played burn 2 DM inspirations to finally pass the check, and it was purely a roleplay moment locked behind a DC 20. It might have had something to do with the planned story, but I wouldn't know as he never gave me any story moments. There was also moments where I was denied the use of my class abilities for no discernible reason. Wild shaping into a homebrew monster that the party saw, which had never done anything but dig, with no CR, or not allowed to sneak attack when I had been using it the whole combat in the same scenario. No other players had experienced denial of their class features, only me. Finally, the DM would shut down creative spell uses for me. In the 5-month-long dungeon at one point, we had gotten ourselves locked in a trap room slowly filling with water. They described the door locking them in as a metal door, so as a fire-based druid, I tossed the idea of trying to melt through the door to escape. The DM explained that the door had a damage threshold of 20, which is not a thing necessarily all the time, to even start the ability to break it down. Practically impossible for my fire-based druid, forcing the group to do it the way the DM intended. Perception checks to find 3 different buttons. The DM later wanted to change those rules for himself and his enemies, but we will touch on this again later. There's a multitude of other miscellaneous issues listed below. The GM never coming up with consistent rulings.
Nah, that's always
Changing
a
ru-
problem.
Changing rules for every player and himself, making combat really confusing and making it extremely hard to plan in combat. The metal door my drogue tried to melt through was a damage threshold of 20. Later, when the paladin blocked a doorway with a horde of enemies trying to get through, the DM set the damage threshold of a wall at 14. When he realized he couldn't break through it with his enemies, he wanted to lower it to 12. The paladin told him off, so he didn't do it in the end.
Yeah, no shit. What are we
Yeah,
talking? Like,
the DM seemed to hate creativity throughout the campaign and never allowing anything he didn't plan for. Then we would push to be able to do creative things the way we wanted to do. He would eventually give, but he would make it clear that this was a burden for him to allow that creativity. The DM had a major DM versus player mentality. No shit. To a point where near the end of the campaign, he outright said that he hated the fact he couldn't challenge us in combat and would get upset when he didn't knock our characters down. Keep in mind, he gave the group plenty of magic items to try to keep up with Ranger A, who still wanted to retire. Then later to take a particularly strong magic item away on a whim because he couldn't hit the player using it. The DM versus player mentality was very obvious. He would target players for staying he would target players for strength from the group, ignore the martial PCs trying to draw the monsters away from the more squishy PCs for ridiculous reasons. Example, they had targeted the Bardlock because they had healing spells, when multiple people in the party had healing spells. They ignored Ranger A and Paladin, ignoring their attacks and even provoking opportunity attacks until Bardlock died. Then, when the player of the Bardlock got upset that they died and realized they weren't okay with the character dying, the DM said that they should have said outright that they weren't okay with it and blamed the player. What? Another thing that falls under this category was the DM outright saying that if the party long rested, he would add more combats to that 5 month long dungeon. We had found a secret room cleared of enemies, and the DM said, "Well, I don't see why you can't long rest here. It's safe. But if you do, I'll have to add 2 to 3 more combats to the next floor."
fuck off, dude. Oh my God,
This was
bro.
after about 7 separate combats, and he said that we had another 2 to 3 to go. We didn't take the long rest.
I I don't even like
Yeah,
could
I
could
love the
can
threatening.
continue real quick. Let's get through this shit real quick because we got plenty more. But like oh I'm ready to tear this whole motherfucker a new one already. I don't and as well as the players. Why? What? Sorry, no, continue. Let's finish first. Let's finish it first.
We were completely starved for roleplay in a roleplay game. It was practically all combat the entire time, and any roleplay we got, it was because the NPC was important. There was no inter party roleplay, and when we tried, the DM would interrupt us and try to push us towards the next planned moment. The DM had to be a part of every roleplay scene, and when the NPC conveyed what he needed them to do, he would swiftly end the scene. The DM never listened to his players about issues we had. He would deflect, outright ignore issues, or debate until he didn't have a leg to stand on. By the end of the campaign, communication between the DM and the players had completely broken down because the DM refused to listen. One time I was on a Discord call with him about issues, but I was having to type because I couldn't use my microphone. And in the middle of that conversation, he just hung up while I was still trying to communicate with him about my issues. Another another time at the table, while we were having a group discussion about table control, as the louder players were getting more play time than the quiet ones, instead of taking the week between us bringing up the issue and when we were discussing it to look into solutions and think about it, he pulled up the first list of a table of manners he could find on the internet.
Beautiful. We love
He
that.
said then he had the paladin read the list directly, then came up with half thought out ways to implement them, etc. If two people, for example, if two people start talking at the same time, they nose goes for who gets to talk first. If you feel like you're going to forget what you want to say, raise your hand, but don't abuse this power. In the end, I did not feel like the DM cared to resolve the issues due to the lack of time and effort he put into the
No
conversation.
shit. Are we like
I have an opinion on that though. The last 4 to 5 months, the DM would just not plan for sessions. He would do 15-minute planning at the table when everyone was ready to play, or he would have a step out of the room occasionally to plan. In the final in the final call, the entire group had with the DM. He said that he didn't like the campaign anymore.
oh wow.
And just had never communicated that with us. Him not liking the campaign anymore would have been okay if he had just told us. There are many other things I could write about, but at this point, it would just turn into petty nitpicking. I've written most of the major things here, so I read it can get a good idea of what caused the campaign to fall apart. And while there were some good times and good things came from it, me and the others decided it was not worth our mental health to keep going. So it's over. Thanks for reading this very lengthy post. If anything, I hope you got some good entertainment. Oh.
Okay, in post. Okay. We're okay. We got through it. We got through it. We got through it. We got through it. So honestly, real quick, let's see this comment with some of the comments down here as well, because this also I think
Yeah.
helps lead us right into a lot of what we kind of want to talk about with this is so top voted comment by famous poet says the DM promised to have Ranger B introduced by the end of the first session. Each of our first sessions lasted 4 hours, so Ranger B was expecting some wait time. But 4 sessions went by and Ranger B had failed to be introduced. Famous poet responds, "What? This is absolutely ridiculous. Did they say anything during these 16 hours of waiting? Did the other players say anything and stand up for them? Like, I don't want to victim blame here, but at some point you have to say something or just don't come back. Like, yes, absolutely, famous poet. Yes, absolutely. Like like that like this like I think to Sam's point. First of all, Sammy, you are the one that found and chose this story. What are your thoughts on this
Oh, I
story
mean,
here, buddy?
I think
Like,
there's
give
I
us your
think
rundown real quick of this fucking train wreck.
I
God
will
damn.
say there's a lot of this is I think on the players as well. Um and not saying that the players were like just not doing it. Like they just there's a point where you do have to stand up for yourself. And no offense, like being forced to wait that long and you just sitting there for 4 consecutive sessions, like that's on you, especially considering they said this wasn't their first time playing this specific
Well,
player. Like,
what was it? Because it's Ranger B, right? I think
oh,
I
is
think
it?
they said Ranger B it was their first
Oh,
time.
maybe. Let me double check
I
before
think
I
she's my
make.
best friend, but she's the third player that brought up. Oh wait, no. She's my best friend of 7 years,
No,
about a year in.
they did not mention that that was their
Yeah, you're
first.
right. Yeah, you're right.
All right, no.
Yeah. So it was Ranger A was okay. Ranger A was his first campaign. Ranger B
so
didn't say it was her first campaign. So yeah,
So you had these two rangers, two sides of the same coin. You had the one who wanted to play but was not allowed to for a month, and another one who just didn't want to play ranger anymore but wasn't allowed to change characters for 8 months.
for eight
Um,
months.
I understand nobody likes confrontation. Why the fuck are you wasting so much of your damn time? No offense, like
What's the point?
I play with people that I genuinely refer, like, consider close friends of mine. No way is that going down. Like, no, dude, after the first session, I'm like, hey, what the fuck is this? What is this? What are we doing? Why am I here if this is gonna be how it is?
And you know, like
Like,
not even just you, like
can we talk about this? Because like if we can't talk about I'm out. Like I'll leave. I don't
yeah.
you know. And I would actually have a reason not to, because these are people who I consider very close. What the fuck does it matter? Like, why put yourself through that and continue to allow it to happen?
And another thing, like, why didn't any of the other players step in sooner? Like, OP literally is like, oh, well, they finally did it after I stepped in. Why did it take you 8 months to step in?
Yeah, that's the part I don't
No
understand.
one's saying shit. Like, everyone seems to be experiencing a lot of problems and issues, and no, like, oh my God, apologies for cutting you off. Please continue.
No, I mean that's one of them. The other thing I don't understand at all, um, is like the weird. How do I put it? I guess all of this leads down to like I do feel like this party definitely considers themselves the victims here, but like this was a dysfunctional table because you guys also were just putting up with it and not doing anything.
They were super allowing. Like they were allowing themselves to be victims here. Like there is like
And they said that as much, like a lot of our group would rather sit quiet to avoid drama. That goes for me too. Hopefully I'm never in a situation like this again. But if I am, I will definitely not sit back and do the same ineffective thing over and over again.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
great, you've learned something, but
Yeah.
like, no
Okay.
offense, as much as you had a shitty DM who, as you said, was like a friend of yours, and that sucks. Why did you just let it go down like that the whole time? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know, another thing too, though, that I wanted to ask the OP as well is like he says it's a long friend. The GM is a longtime friend they've known for about 5 years, and they've been in one of his campaigns before that apparently didn't really go anywhere. So apparently, this GM already has like I'm questioning and I'm interested to know in the last campaign you played with this GM. You said it didn't go anywhere. Did he exhibit any of these same behavior, traits and decisions and choices in that campaign? And did you say anything about that? Like, did he at any point like convey that he was going to change again? I'm having some trouble processing this as being a legitimate thing because you literally played a previous campaign with him. And normally, people who exhibit these kinds of traits, they don't do so, like he seems like a brand new goddamn GM to me. Like he does not seem like a particularly like he's either completely brand new or he is among those rare and yet unfortunately still slightly prolific group of absolute shit GMs who are shit GMs because they are so like narcissistic and self-serving and can't actually play a cooperative story-driven game. They just have their own shit here. Like this guy, like especially when again if you have a GM who consistently arbitrarily changes all kinds of shit, especially if we're talking just baseline rules, and I'm having maybe a little bit of personal like PTSD from this because again my cringe campaign, my story, my worst campaign had a GM exactly like that. That shit was fucking like I did not stand for that shit at all. You better believe I fucking was like I was hammering that shit when that crap came up. Because if there's one thing, look, it's great to have some homebrew rules and to like allow rule of cool and stuff like that, right? We love that. We are absolutely an advocate for that. At least I am. Would you say you are, Sammy? Like
Yeah.
it's okay, right? Because the whole point of the game, as we always say, the most important thing is you're trying to have fun, right? So allowing a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of openness to maybe bend or stretch the rules a bit for rule of cool is a great aspect to have in your games. 100%. Homebrew, we love it. But there's a difference between that and just arbitrarily fucking changing and corrupting and breaking the rules entirely for your own personal benefit and convenience, right? You can't just say shit. Like, here's the thing, right? We'll even use the metal door thing as an example, right? Him saying that a metal door has a damage threshold of 20. I don't think that's that big a thing. Like, that's fair, right? Like, sure, being able to try to melt through a metal door like that would require probably a pretty fucking hot heat of not just a damage, but like consistent, right? Like, yeah, because yeah, even Baldur's Gate 3 does that same type of shit, right? Where there is a damage threshold of you have to at least meet this number for it to deal any real damage. If you meet that number, it deals all that damage, or higher, it deals all that damage, of course, right? That makes sense. Especially if it's like, stronger or durable material like metal. Even magic isn't going to be able to super easily burn through metal, right? You know what I mean? Like that's fair, right? You have other spells for that too, like pass wall. Metal doesn't mean shit to pass wall. You can just literally open up a pathway, right? But if you're trying to say like, well, I'm going to try and burn through it, like using more like realistic physics, well, yeah, having a damage threshold for a metal door, if you're trying to destroy it, that's fair. Metal shouldn't be easy to just break through with sheer force or damage. Fair enough. But then to say that a wall, I'm assuming maybe the material is also metal, has a damage threshold of 14, clearly putting it down so it makes it easier for his minions to get through it. They still can't get through it. And so he then tries to arbitrarily change it down to 12 so that they can get through it for his convenience. Abso-fucking-lutely not. No. 100% not. Because if that was the case, you hit them with a fireball or whatever, right? Them walls are coming down immediately. A regular third level fireball, what is that? That's 8d6 fire damage. On average, that's going to be like what? 8d6 on average is going to be 36, fucking going up to 42, 48. Yeah, on average, it's going to be like what? 24 damage, give or take. That technically would be enough to technically melt that door, that metal door before too, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's, you can't start, again, the moment a GM starts to try to arbitrarily change, not just like, we're talking rule of cool kind of vibe things, but baseline core mechanics, right? That becomes a problem. You know what I mean? That is not up for debate or discussion at all. You are playing this game for a reason. Yes, it's very flexible. Yes, it's very diverse and very allowing. That's the point of it. That's why we love it. But there's also a line, a very clear line, where you have these base rule sets here, right? This is what makes it a game. Because if it's not a game, if you don't follow at least these just basic foundational rules that we all agree to play this game with, it just becomes, and we've said this so many times, it just becomes literally a he said, she said, 6-year-old imagination off, right? You basically get into a nah-yaha moment where I create a shield, I create a gun that can blow through everything and destroy everything. Well, I create an invincible, invulnerable shield that you see the issues there? You're not actually playing a game, then you're just going to get into an imagination off. That's not fun. It's bad. It's stupid. This is coming from people who play imagination games. You know what I mean? Like that's stupid. That's bad. That's not a game. You have to have some amount of structure for it to actually be fun and interesting for you to actually be able to play a game. That's the point of a game. A game is literally based off of the structure and rules that it encompass it. That's the point. If you're just going to arbitrarily change them, again, go write a book. Nobody wants to play with you. And if you have a GM who's going to do that, don't play with that GM. That is a horrible GM, and they most likely will never learn. If they are willing to do that, that shows that they're not only a horrible GM, but maybe even kind of a shitty, maybe I shouldn't say shitty, but a very selfish, narcissistic person. They only care about winning or their own personal satisfaction or pleasure. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's
in
not.
Any way, shape, or form.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, at this point, the Arcane Archive's official opinions on this is, everybody kind of sucks here. Kind of, a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, the GM, I definitely think is the biggest issue, 100% for all the shit that they did, because they primarily did have clearly the most amount of issues and problems. But OP, you and the rest of the players, it's like, my friend, like, you chose to play with him even after you already played with him in a previous campaign. So you must have at least gotten some idea of what he's like. And I will say, don't get me wrong, I will absolutely advocate. I love the fact that, you stood up for yourself eventually, right? You got there. You learned and you were like, you know what? I'm not doing this ever again. I hope this doesn't happen to me again. I'm in this position, but if I am, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm not responding like the same. That's good. We love that. Growth. 100%. We will 100% advocate for that. Awesome.
Yeah, maybe a little too late, but
well, it's never too late. It's always, or it's always better late than never when it comes to growth, right?
Yeah.
It's never too late to grow, because at the end of the day, it should be about yourself too, right? Yeah, it might be too late for this situation and this thing here, but hey, you gotta take that. You take those lumps, and maybe that was what was needed to help you to grow. Fair enough. You got there. So please use that for the next situation to improve and get better. That's all you can ever ask and expect, and we absolutely advocate and love that. But goddamn, man, all of this shit where it's like, and to be fair, some of the players more than others have at least a little bit more of an excuse because it's their first game, right? It's your first game. You don't really know all the necessary like decorum or protocol or what's acceptable, what's not per se. But on the other hand, too, though, there is such a thing as being like, well, no matter what, if you're new or not, there will always just be that baseline amount of self-respect and consideration, right? Doesn't matter what anybody else says. If you're even if you're brand new to something, like being abused, being, exceedingly disrespected, disregarded, like anything of that sort, that is never acceptable from any situation or event or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're new or not, right? It's good to be aware. Love that. Self-awareness, right, is always great to be like, yeah, okay. I need to maybe be a little bit more aware of how this works and goes on, and I don't want to overstep my bounds. That's great. That's consideration. We love that. But you also always got to make sure that you make sure you keep that consideration for yourself reasonably. There's no excuse not to, right? Yeah, other people could step up too. That's true. Other players, in my opinion, it's not fact, but it is my opinion, they should step in too when they see some shit like that happen, because especially if you're more experienced, that's bullshit. You see that, you should say something. But the reality of it is too is that you can't expect anybody to save you or protect you if you're not even willing to do that for yourself. You know what I mean? First and foremost, the one you should always expect or want to try to save and protect you is yourself. And then hopefully other people will also come into with that. But like that's always the first step. Yeah, there is just so much about this that is just completely and utterly unokay. Like I would have been torn I would have torn this GM a new one. I would have been torn like on so many things, bro. This dude, I would have had him breaking down and crying. Like this dude saying he didn't like the way the campaign was going. Motherfucker, I would have absolutely torn him a new asshole and then just been like, you know what? I'll GM for a few sessions here until maybe we find someone else or this dude shapes up or something. Every single time he would have tried some bullshit, I would have been like, nope, denied. Nope, denied. Nope, denied. Like, no, absolutely not. Fuck off, dude. No. Anything else you got to say about this one, brother?
No. I think that's all of
Alrighty.
it.
If that's the case, let's go ahead. Let's switch over to the next one here. Again, like I told you, this is going to be quite the rage-induced cringe roller coaster ride for y'all today, because this next one coming up is also quite the choice GM. Again, you'll see the theme for exactly what it is right here. The next story we have for you today, my friends, is titled GM Decided That He Could Not Bear to Lose by Wild Wraith. Hello, all. First time writing one of these, so please forgive any unintended errors. For the last several months, a good friend of mine has been running what recently turned into a Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign for me, my girlfriend, and her two friends. I really want to play this module at some point, Sammy. I really want to find a time to find like a group to play this with, because this one looked really cool. One of the few where it's like you go from, I think, level 1 all the way to level 20. I don't know. I forget exactly where you start, but it is a full level 20 module, which, again, those are rare. But anywho, everything has, with the exception of a few easily overlooked and very short-term personality conflicts, been going really well for the more than 8 months, in fact, at this point. Until about an hour ago. Now, our party is comprised of a level 11 Tiefling Bard, College of Lore, a level 11 Aasimar Paladin, Oath of Vengeance, a level 11 Changeling Sorcerer of Draconic Bloodline Nature, and me, a level 11 Eladrin Bladesinger. And we are deep in Web's Edge, trying to recover the first part of the Rod of 7 Parts from a deep dragon and a yucklol that were protecting it. Now, for those of you who might not be in the know, deep dragons and yucklols are both incredibly dangerous creatures by themselves, and yet now they are apparently being teamed up against the party here. Now, to be fair, they are all level 11. They are no slouches, for sure. But continuing on, important note, my Blade Singer is lugging around the Sword of Cass. It's an entire thing, and the whole party had been having fun with my rendition of a Frodo/Aragorn hybrid with a phobia for all things Fey and a manic revulsion for all things undead that I categorically do not use as an excuse to do anything crazy or game derailing. Promise. I can't even really remember when his stance had anything besides an RP impact, aside from an unwillingness to spare evil undead when it might be, slightly easier to bypass them. Anyways, as one might imagine, the fight against the Deep Dragon and the Yucklo was rather challenging for 4 level 11 characters lacking a dedicated healer. So, when the sorcerer got killed by the dragon's breath weapon, which only happened because the GM deliberately misconstrued our paladin's statement of saying, I'm moving toward the party, and sorcerer's name, to mean he was moving past said sorcerer and beyond the range for spare the dying. Because, and I quote, he said he was heading for the party. Sorcerer had then fallen, and the fight moved when the Yucklo misformed, so her unconscious body was 20 feet from the current fighting pool. I decided it was time to hit the panic button on the Sword of Cast the moment the Deep Dragon went down, and cooked off my action to use magic item, triggering the Sword of Cast's Divine Word ability. The Yucklo passes its save, and so in response, I burn my reaction to Silvery Barbs, that successful save, and force a reroll, which the Yucklo failed. Now, just as a side note here, specifically the OP wanted to say, at the time I made my Blade Singer, I explicitly not only pointed out that most tables either ban or at least the GM modifies the spell Silvery Barbs. I explained why at length and finished by recommending that he do the same, while saying, however, if you decide to include it unmodified, of course I'm going to take it as one of my first level spells, which is what ended up happening, because the GM wanted to be free to have his plentiful caster antagonist also using Silvery Barbs on us. So, this was somehow the very first time the GM had been exposed to Divine Word being used on an extra planar target. So when he asked me for the save DC, then inquired what happened when the Yucklo failed with a 12 on the reroll, he was visibly annoyed, because I told him that the Yucklo was in fact banished. And when he replied, well, that's fine, it'll just plane shift back next round as the Cleric of Lowell, I had to tell him that Divine Word prevents the target from returning for 24 hours. Now he was well and truly visibly aggravated. He rolls some dice, then announces that the Nalfeshni we scouted before but did not actually engage earlier in the complex had heard the fighting and was now arriving as belated reinforcements. So it teleports into the midst of the party while we're collecting the now dead sorcerer's body and the piece of the Rraaghh that had been collected. Immediately, the bard gets killed, leaving just our badly mangled paladin and myself nearly fresh because I'd had Tasha's otherworldly guys up, specifically for attuned to the lower planar, running the entire fight. And the one time the dragon would have otherwise tagged me pretty good with its breath weapon, I was immune to the poison damage and used Song of Defense to cook off most of the successfully saved against remainder. Love that. See? A true, indeed, Blade Singer baddie paladin, or Blade Singer baddie buddy at its finest there. Note, I probably saved successfully 8 to 9 times against Restraint Webbing, which also seemed to be aggravating him, despite the fact every roll is being made in the communal rolling tray in the center of the table. Not really a shocker, given my capped max dex of 20. And now we come to the point everything came off the rails. It comes back to my initiative, and I announce I'm dropping Tasha's otherworldly guys, so I can cast Disintegrate on the Nalfeshni. The GM had just massive damaged the bard to death, the first use of an optional rule I wasn't even aware we were using. So my notion was a faint hope that a really good damage roll could force the Nalfeshni to make a similar roll. I didn't have a lot of faith in the notion of a system shock would take out something so tanky, but it seemed reasonable the Nalfeshni might choose to concentrate on me if it was at least hurt really badly. And that might buy our pally enough rounds standing to finish what I started. All assuming I could make the Disintegrate stick, of course. So, pause real quick for those of you who aren't aware of what he's referring to. There is an optional rule in D&D, as well as a number of other TTRPGs, I believe, that is known as System Shock. Essentially, what that entails is that if a character or a creature of any type takes damage, I believe like at least half or higher of their like maximum HP pool, they will essentially experience what is considered system shock. where they have to make a roll specifically against it. If they fail it, I think there's a number of potential negative aspects or elements that can accrue, like a number of negative status effects that can happen. Like, again, for some, it's like, I think depending on how you roll, it's like, oh, you might lose a turn, or you might get stunned, or you might get, knocked prone or something like that. If you roll worse enough, though, or if you roll badly enough, some GMs will even say, like, your character just dies outright due to system shock because you took so much damage in one sitting, which I personally have never liked that rule. I think it's kind of dumb. I think it adds far too much like restriction and negative aspects to things that you don't necessarily have any control over yourself for the most part, unless you're maybe, again, a very specific class, character, or whatever. I just personally feel it just does not work well overall. Obviously, a lot of GMs love to use it if it's in like a more quote unquote realistic or grimdark or like hardcore game where like the stakes and the enemies are supposed to be so super like difficult and bad and whatever. But anywho, moving on. DM rolls twice, needing to better a 7 to beat the DC 18. He comes up with a 4 and an 11 and begins to announce an Elfish Knees successful save. When I pipe up, I'm spinning my reaction to Silvery Barbs at 11. I have never before seen my friend look at me like this. He looks up and glares at me like I just spit in his drink with a smile and told him, "Hey, bottoms up, chum." He picked up his D20 and threw it in the tray as hard as one could while not actively sending it flying out in all directions. And it turns up a 3. So I start collecting my D6s when he announces, when did you tell me you were buying the material components for Disintegrate? I'm looking at the components here, and it says there's a lodestone that costs 150 GP. You explicitly need to purchase material components over 5 GP. That's the rule. I try to explain that what he's looking at is a lodestone, Load, and not a lodestone, Lode. And even try pointing him towards the resources that show that a Load stone is a component for a friggin' cantrip, mending, if you wanted to know. And that everything I can find suggests that this falls under the no announce / describe price part of the components pouch rule, which we do employ. He announces he's disallowing the Disintegrate for lack of a material component. I look him in the eye and say to him, "You have clearly lost your objectivity. You are actively hunting for a way to win at D&D, and I am 99.9% sure it's because you're pissed that I've been cakewalking this fight because of a half dozen calls you made against my recommendations. I told you explicitly 3 separate times on 3 separate occasions, XXX, I'm assuming that's the GM's name, you're not going to be happy with this result. When a major encounter ends up turning on my asking you to reroll D20s until we as a party get a result advantageous to us." The GM opened his mouth to respond, but I wasn't done, and I continued by saying, "Blank, you blew off my reservations, specifically about Silvery Barbs, numerous times. And now that said reservations have in fact been realized in-game. You're literally engineering a TPK in a fit of pique, despite the fact that rules as written, no rational player would, after discussing with you the purchase of an ivory statuette for their brand new contingency spell, and you're asking, are you buying any other material components for your new spells at the alchemist shop? And my replying, yes, I want to buy everything I need for telekinesis, hold monster, Tasha's otherworldly guys, contingencies, etc. Here's my list of new spells after the last couple level ups, and as a reminder, here are the spells which were in that NPC spell book I've been looking around for ages, which I can now learn and cast. How much will it be to get everything I need to cast all of these? Aside from clone and sequester, because I don't have that kind of gold after buying a contingency statuette. I think that they needed to explicitly announce the acquisition of a price unlisted component. When you have never so much as inquired about a material component without a GP cost and a spell description prior to this session. He gave me a figure. I deducted the 3,150 gold, leaving me about 100 gold, and I specifically queried, was I able to get everything? If so, how much was that? DM's response, yeah, you're good. I can't believe you burned half your stack to fire up contingency literally the moment you could cast it. Realizing things were getting unpleasant, I announced quite tersely, I'm going outside for a cigarette. I'm angry and upset, and I don't want to say something I'm going to regret later. The moment I walked out on the deck, he apparently scooped up his stuff and left. So yeah, that's where we left it. If that ruling stands, then now Fishni will have no trouble whatsoever cleaning up me and the nearly unconscious paladin, which means a TPK. If he stands by that, I am done playing D&D with him for good. My girlfriend's daughter has a campaign we both play in, and I will probably drop out of that one too. End post. So right off the bat, buddy, before you see anything else,
No.
what do you make of this whole story here?
Similar to our first thing, it seems like an adversarial, by definition, adversarial DMing. Um, I don't understand the style of play. I feel like we run into this way too often, where it's like the DM is trying to win, but what are you winning?
That's the question, isn't
Because
it,
like
buddy?
you know what, you I guess you're winning at making the people that are playing with you have a bad time. I
Well,
didn't
you're
realize
you're 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 winning by quote unquote beating them in the encounter, right?
you're the one writing the story. Why do you want to beat them?
That's always the question, isn't it? It's like you'd
Making
think
it
that as a
hard for them,
GM,
sure.
like
Like
you think as a GM, like you'd want them to succeed, right? Like that, because they are the quote unquote heroes of your story, right? That's what they are supposed to be, right? They're not supposed to be the quote unquote victims of your story. They're supposed to be the heroes of your story. Like, why? And again, yes, 100%, you do always want to challenge them, right? You do want to put, like, and that's a thing where, of course, and I guess I shouldn't say you always do, right? That, I guess, should be something you should have a discussion with your players about, right? Because some players do legitimately maybe just like to steamroll through encounters and have that power fantasy, and that's okay too, you know? But definitely here. What I also particularly love, though, when we literally just said in the last post, this is a great, this is a nice dichotomy on two separate ends of like, but with the same situation, right? This OP fucking obliterated, in my opinion, this GM's bullshit. He did not stand, he stood on business right here. He was not about to take none of that bullshit, bro. He came correct. He came strapped. He came ready. He had receipts. He was like, the way he, again, his diction, his structure, all of it. He was like, all right, let's go. Let's go. You want to have some bullshit here? Let's go. Bam, 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 bam. I already talked to you about this 3 separate times. We already went through all of this shit. If you are really trying to pull all this bullshit out your ass, then fine. Let's just retroactively get this shit out the way right now because it's bullshit and ridiculous and it shouldn't even be a thing in the first place. But fine, let's go there because I can go there. Here we go. How much is going to cost me to get all my shit that I technically should have already had in the first place that you have never once asked for except for right now and it's one moment when it is the most convenient for you because you're feeling butthurt that I just wiped your entire goddamn encounter. And not even wiped. You already killed 2 of our party. Like, what are we talking about here? Why are you even mad? Why is the GM even fucking mad? He straight up killed 2 of the party members. One of them was fair, still probably due to some bullshit interpretation, again, for his own convenience. And then he also bullshit interpretation. He brought in a Nalfeshni out of nowhere to kill the bard too. You took out half the party, bro. And you're still trying to get more? Nah. Fuck out of here, dude. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Sit your ass down. Someone else take up the GMing seat, because this is some bullshit, bro. Again, for what point? And again, I think maybe for the point the OP literally calls it. I loved it, bro. He deconstructed this motherfucker on a subatomic level. I'm like, bro, respect. I don't believe I could have said it any better myself. Bro literally looks at his ass and goes like, you have lost your objectivity. You're actively hunting for a way to win at D&D. And I'm 99% sure it's because you pissed off that I've been cakewalking this fight. Like, just tore him up, bro. Eviscerated him. Hell yes. See? Now, apprentice acolytes, you don't have to be obviously as adept as this individual was at absolutely shredding that. But do take a little bit of, inspiration and courage from this guy here, because he was even being very self-aware, right? Where he was saying, like, I am angry and upset myself now as well, and I'm going to take a second to step away because I don't want to say something that I'll regret, right? He was even aware of himself. He was beautifully, like rational, reasonable, and fair in this entire situation. And again, I think that obviously comes from quite a bit of he's clearly exceedingly experienced and knowledgeable about the game, about TTRPGs in general, I would say, maybe, or at the very least D&D, whatever. Like, he knew his shit. I'm not entirely sure how old everyone here was. But either way, this is absolutely, you don't have to do it exactly like this, of course. But again, take some inspiration from this guy here. He stood up for himself fairly, right? Even when the bullshit happened initially, where he's like, oh, the paladin was going towards the sorcerer to try to help them. Even when that happened, they didn't make a huge fuss about it right away. He noted it and saw it and was like, okay, that's a little bullshit, but whatever. And, he stood up for himself. He even apparently at the beginning of the game, when making the character, advocated for, hey, I want to take this spell here. I recognize the inherent busted brokenness, or at least I personally, I'll say for me, myself as Adam, I don't think Silvery Barbs is busted or broken. It's exceedingly annoying and frustrating when it's like, hey, because here's the thing, it still does depend on a real. You can only do it once. It's just once per roll. And it really just depends on if you do it right, Because I can't tell you how many times I've used Silvery Barbs, or I've seen other people use Silvery Barbs, and it does nothing. Right? The enemy still rolls high and passes anyway. You know what I mean? I don't like the fact that a lot of people, like, same thing with like the using the lucky feat or whatever. It's like, it's not inherently busted because it also still depends just on a person's inherent luck. Like, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But either way, I do understand that some people can find it to be very frustrating, especially in clutch moments, right? But that's exactly what Silvery Barbs was made for. It was made for moments exactly like this. Because, well, you know what also sucks more than anything? Is, you're in a really tight spot. You cast like a really high-level powerful spell that's a save, like Disintegrate, and the person passes. They take nothing. They take no damage. You just used up you used up your action, your turn, basically, a 6th level spell at least for nothing, right? That also sucks. That sucks. That's not a great feeling. But nobody cares about that, right? Nobody's like, Silver Barbs can help maybe make that a little less of a likelihood. That's it. It's not a huge fucking thing. But regardless, I get it. People can sometimes feel aggravated and upset and like shit about it. Sure. But if that's the case, as OP said, he literally told the GM, ban it, or just at least like just do a little bit of a tweak here and there. You know what I mean? Just tweak it here and there. He said no because he wanted to use it for his spellcasters. Fair. That's completely fair. But when that happens, then don't get fucking angry. Stop getting all salty. Little punk ass man. Like, come on, bro. You did it to yourself. Fucking grow up, dude. Swear to God.
It's a lot of people acting like children.
Yes,
I want it to go my way. Yeah. I want it to go my way. And it's like, dude, that's not. Play a single player game.
Yeah. Go play Baldur's Gate 3.
Go play literally anything where you get to control the outcome of it.
Go play Skyrim, Oblivion.
Anything that's not going to include other people.
Yeah, do your own thing. If you want to play your own game, play a single player game. Go play single player. That's not what this is. Like, seriously, fuck off. What are we doing? I hate that shit, bro. It's so stupid because you're just being a little punk ass wussy bee, bro. Like, dude. Honestly, man. I will say I love one of the top comments here. Dude goes like, yeah, that game will not reconvene. You killed the extra player being, then you killed the Nalfeshni, then you killed the GM. All three deaths are canonical unless retcon. So you should show up for that other game and act like nothing happened. I'll say that too, OP. If you ever see this video, OP, do not leave that other game. You know what I mean? Don't leave that other game. You shouldn't, because again, that's your girlfriend's daughter. Like, yeah, you should still be involved. I'm sure she would want you there more than your more than that this douchebag GM, your ex friend or whatever. Like, don't leave that other game with him, right? Because like he's also not the GM there, I believe, right? Because based on what you said,
Yeah, if you can avoid it, don't let this fucker also mess up
yeah,
other
don't
things in
don't
your
ruin
life.
that because you're playing with your girlfriend and her daughter. Like that sounds like it'd be a great time if you guys are really getting along. Like, don't let him ruin that too, man.
No.
Like, absolutely, this shit's messed up for sure. But if he's not GMing, then F him, bro. And if he starts acting up and doing some shit, well, kick him then. Kick him out. And I get it, right? Like that's not up to you. I understand it. I'm sure that you, as someone who is probably more of a veteran, it seems like in the community, you do understand. It's like, yo, if everybody else is cool with him being there and you're the only odd man out, then yeah, you should leave, right? I get your thinking about that. But I would say, from the sounds of it, if all this shit is happening, like, have you talked with your girlfriend and your other friends, and about how they feel about him? Because I can't see any of them liking this any more than you did, quite frankly. I can't see any of them being cool with this any more than you. So I don't think you should automatically just take yourself out of the equation right away if you can still have a really great time with them, and maybe even more so if maybe they're for whatever reason feeling hesitant to try to stand up to them themselves. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just my feeling on it. But
Yeah.
thank you very much for your story, brother. It was absolutely delightful. I mean, it was rage, cringe inducing for sure, but oh so satisfying at that end when you just gave it to him both barrels, bro. Kudos to you, my friend. Respect. All right. Let's move on to the next one of the day here, buddy. Take it away, Sammy.
Actually, if we can pause for just a quick second, I have to
Oh,
grab
yeah.
something from the door. I just didn't want to leave you while you were talking.
Oh, appreciate that. Absolutely. Let's take a second. We'll be right back in a second for you guys. One moment. And we are back. Sorry about that little little break right there. Again, life be life, and like we say. Welcome back though, Sammy. Are we ready to get into the next story for the day for him?
I do. I have another frustrating one. Um,
Hey, we said we had a theme for today, so
I have our next story, which is titled "Impulsive Player Doesn't Want Consequences for Actions. Rage Quits Game" by Rraaghh. Um, this story happened about 3 years ago and led to the quitting of said player. For the cast, we have DM, Bard, and our problem player, the Druid. Other PCs are not as relevant to the story, but include a cleric, monk, rogue, sorcerer, and warlock. The party arrived in a town, and the warlock noticed that something seemed to be poisoning the free water source, making everyone who couldn't afford to buy clean water from the local government sick. The party headed down to the local reservoir, where we found a young dragon who'd gotten sick off of the water, so we knew even here the water was tainted. After dealing with the dragon, we head down into the underground to try to find the source of the contamination. After a small confrontation with some undead baddies in the caves, the party splits up, with rogue, warlock, and sorcerer going one way, bard, druid, cleric, and monk going the other. While rogue, warlock, and sorcerer end up in combat, bard, druid, cleric, and monk ended up finding the source of the contamination. It turned out someone had been stashing barrels of some unknown substance down in the caves, and one of them had leaked into the water supply. Now, the bard, bless her heart, extremely low wisdom, decided to test exactly what this substance was by dipping her finger into it and tasting it. Turned out to be an undiluted drug that instantly poisoned her, and, like the townsfolk above, sent her into a blind rage.
so she knows that this has been making people sick and poisoning them, and yet
Dude,
she's
some
still.
people, that's just what they do. They're convinced it's not going to happen to them. Um,
Oh, goodness gracious me.
yeah. Um, the druid, seeing this unfortunate turn of events, decided to dip her head in and drink directly from the undiluted drugs just because, also instantly becoming poisoned by the rage-inducing drug with a failed save. The DM told them both that until they were cured or the drugs wore off, they would violently attack anyone they came across, including party members. The bard accepted immediately, preparing for the juicy, dramatic RP of it all. Druid
Oh my
did
god.
not. She told the DM that she would not be participating in any PvP or giving up control over character. Here it should be noted that this is the same druid that on multiple occasions slapped the rogue across the face and threatened violence at the drop of a hat. Also, the same druid that had been warned repeatedly by the DM about actions, say it with me, class, actions
Have
having consequences.
consequences.
Yeah,
Consequences.
this is in and out of game, but this was specifically in game and had ignored those warnings. The DM again informed her that the drug made her unable to make that call until it wore off, and then the session ended. The week passed relatively quiet, with the party excited to see what would happen when everyone came back together and the drama that would sure ensue. The DM and Druid took some time during this week to discuss how the issue would be handled, or so we were told. Game finally rolled around, and when the combat would have started, Druid proudly announces that her character has fallen asleep. The DM the DM instantly corrected her. The drugs caused her to hallucinate that she was surrounded by enemies, and she was filled with a fury to attack them. The druid repeated that she had fallen asleep and wasn't going to be a part of combat, and that she had told the DM she wouldn't be doing PvP.
That's
The
not your
DM
decision to
agreed.
make.
The DM agreed that they said she didn't have to do the PvP, but as he had told her before, he would run that part for her if she wouldn't. DM again said that Druid again said that she fell asleep from the drugs, and the DM again said that that wasn't what they discussed and not how the drugs functioned. And there were consequences for taking what was already known to be a dangerous substance,
Literally.
especially after seeing another PC take it.
Literally.
The Druid then left the call shortly after that, and then left the game. This was the last time we would see Druid in the server. In time, we would come to see the departure of the monk and the cleric, though those are stories for another time. Oh. The top comment of this is also what got me. The first thing I thought when reading was, usually it would be the druid coming to the sub and post how their DM took their player agency and forced to PvP. Not that I think the DM did anything wrong here, if they truly did something as stupid as dip their head into a berserker potion. The OP responded, to the DM's credit as well, he let the bard decide how they rage attack, so the bard was just able to pathetically unarmed strike for 1 damage.
Yeah.
Someone responded, reminds me of an old campaign where the party's two casters failed their save against a rage effect, but had stacked loads of magical defenses beforehand, so they just spent several rounds ineffectually flailing at each other while the paladin and fighter watched and laughed. Yeah, I love
yeah.
that. Someone also said, I hate when players game the system in situations like that. You don't have to go all out, but you should embrace the RP and take actions your PC normally would against enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said. I've played in instances where there was some mind control or
Yeah, no.
a haunting of swords, stuff like that. And the way I look at it is there's two schools of thought. Either it's a mindless control, the player doesn't use skills or abilities or spells if they have them, or there's the more like poignant, like you will fight like you're fighting an enemy.
Yes.
I've done that
Same.
against other players at my table. I've been the one that's like, well, this is an enemy in front of me, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, what would you do? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I would sneak around here, throw a knife at that guy, and stab that dude in the neck. And they're like,
Yeah.
all right, let's go for it.
Yeah, same.
And did I take a sweet kind of dark pleasure in it?
Yeah, sweet,
Of
dark,
course.
morbid,
Of course I did. Did it,
sick little feeling. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, did I get a little butterfly in my stomach when I'm like, I get to kill my friend?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, this is what we've talked a lot today about player agency. This to me is just not taking the context clues, not
it
looking
wasn't even
at
just context clues.
Yeah.
It was clear statements.
Yeah.
Like, again, I love this too. I think this does show a great dichotomy. And again, the other end of the spectrum here, we love it when we're able to kind of hit those two kind of examples for you, acolytes. But this is, again, there's a huge difference, as we just said, between player agency and consequences from said agency, right? As we literally just witnessed, the druid and the bard before her, to be fair as well, they both chose, after knowing all of this, the information and everything from before ever getting close to that, they understood that this shit was toxic at the very least. It was poisonous. It was causing issues and problems with even a dragon. Even if it was young, doesn't matter. A dragon is not a creature that will be taken down by just any old random poison for the most part, unless it's super young. And they still chose to indulge in it. See, at least like, with the bar was dumb enough where they literally just like dipped a finger and like tasted it. That was stupid. Though I would then definitely say that like the bard might have like a slightly less intense reaction to it because it was literally just like a boop and then like a lick. So it's like they might still feel like a little bit like, influenced maybe by it. But then the druid choosing to dunk their entire head inside of it and then getting upset when the GM's like, oh yeah, you're gonna go fly into an absolute fit of uncontrolled rage and incoherency for a bit.
It's like, cool.
Yeah, it's like you chose to do that. You knew what this substance was at least doing to most people and things. You saw the bard literally take it, and the GM described what happened to the bard, and yet you still chose to dunk your why?
Why?
What did you expect to happen? And then you want to say, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not engaging in PvP. I'm not doing that. You can't take my character from me. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't take your character from you. You gave your character up. There's a difference. You made this decision. Yes, there are consequences. Again, you don't get to just do whatever the hell you want in this world with impunity. You're not a god. At least your character isn't yet. You know what I mean? You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. I don't know what to tell you. Like you can't just go around and say like we said, the whole baseline rules and fundamental or the foundation aspects of the game. You have cause and effect. You do something, something's gonna happen. That's how that works. Now, if that's something that happens to what you did is something ridiculous, like the GM making it like, oh hey, yeah, like I wanted to try and like, snatch I want to maybe snatch this noble person's, coin pouch for some extra cash, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you have like 5 level 20 bodyguards or adventurers hunting you down for, a couple hundred gold, if even that. Like that's a bit of an extreme reaction, which wouldn't warrant it and would be ridiculous, right? That response is not directly due to your action there, right? That's not a reasonable reaction to your action. But you dunking your entire head into a vat of toxic, hallucinogenic, emotional, altering chemicals and drugs, and you basically being like, yeah, you're gonna start going on a rage-induced frenzy against anybody. That's a pretty reasonable, rational response, I think. Yeah. So you can't just say, no, that doesn't happen. You can't just say, like, yeah, my character just falls asleep. That's not how that works. The drugs would literally keep you. The drugs are clearly uppers. You ain't falling asleep anytime soon, love. I don't know what you want to say. That's not how that works. Sorry. Now, here's what I will say. Maybe the GM could have had them roll, like, Constitution saving throws or something to, like, see, like, if they're able to, like, resist it more. Like, they maybe, like, instead of it being, like, you're going to go into a rage-induced whatever, it's just like, okay, well, your perception is going to be highly altered, right? You're going to have disadvantage on checks or whatever for a bit because you did that. And then if you fail to save, yeah, you are going full on like rage mode just against anything and everything, right? Sure, he could have maybe introduced a check. I don't think that would be a bad thing, but you did also dunk your head in there too. Like,
that's the part that I'm just like, come on now.
Like, that kind of idiotic actions and thinking, it is really just like, bro, what did you expect? Like, I understand probably too how the GM felt in terms of being like, all right, I need to show legitimate consequences for these actions because these actions are stupid. You're being stupid, and you're being stupid because you're again, we want to talk about like metagaming. Like, you're kind of metagaming, right? You're being stupid because you're just like, well, I'm not going to be affected by this, obviously, so then I'm just going to make my character do this stupid fucking thing that makes no damn sense. That is completely ridiculous and unreasonable. Okay, well, all right, fine. You do that, then you're gonna get consequences for your character. Oh fucking well. If you're gonna, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, bro. It's not that fucking difficult. It's not that complicated. Anything else you gotta say about this one, buddy?
No, I just thought it'd be funny, if I'm being honest.
Honestly, it is a funny one. Like this right here just showcases again how childish and immature people can be. You make a decision, you made an action and a choice. Well, accept the consequences, bro. It's just not that fucking complicated, man. Grow the fuck up. Moving on. Dude, talking about growing the hell up. Again, we are keeping the theme strong today. I love it. Welcome to the next story of the day we have for you, my friends. This one's titled Guy Begs for Games, Pushes Too Hard by Surleo. A little bit of an essay warning for anybody who might have a bit of a trigger there. I don't think it's particularly it's not egregious or heavy, but just as a heads up for anybody. So, this isn't a horror story from the table, but one from my local gaming community has been dealing with which boiled to a head in the last few days. So, a few years ago, a man came into my local RPG community. Like so many, he seemed eager to want to find games. Now, this community is in a hub city that borders 3 states and is 2 hours for 4 major cities in any direction. So, it's a bit of a large community that tries hard to be welcoming and find fits for players of all different types. Love that. That's super cool. Nearly 1,000 people that all come together to make games happen. Anyway, this guy, who I will not even give a name to, starts by simply posing questions to the community. Daily posts, mostly opinion questions. What's your favorite setting? Favorite systems? That kind of stuff. You know what I mean? A little over a month in, his questions start shifting. He'd pose an honest question like, hey, what's your favorite RPG book published? And then follow it up with, so why are online games so unwelcoming? Now, being a community that wants people to find games, we would, offer a bit of probing questions of our own, to give better advice. This then turned into this question. Why can't I find any game groups? When we started giving advice, he'd immediately give dismissive responses. Everything you'd offer up, he'd immediately shoot it down, claiming that he had already tried it. This then prompted a rant. He claimed that he had no luck finding a game because he's tall, intimidating, and not an attractive girl, which had a whole subsection on how he left the table because an attractive woman was there, and there were suddenly players until he then returned himself, but that's a whole other thing. So the community began pushing back. His experiences sounded like a checklist of the worst RPG horror stories. This guy supposedly experienced every possible red flag player in a short window of time. Someone then called him out on it, pointing out how he is incredibly negative, dismissive, and passes blame at every opportunity. In response, he left the group. 2 years later, he comes back. What the 2 years? Damn, bro. Now, we want to believe that people can mature, they can grow and learn, right? Hey, we love that here too. Absolutely advocate for that. Every other day for 2.5 weeks, he starts posting, looking for game posts. He wants DCC, or D&D 3.5, or Pathfinder First Edition. No Star Wars, no Star Trek, no 5e, etc. Okay, slightly picky, but, we're allowed to have our tastes. When the 7th post gets minimal feedback, he starts his nonsense again. First, he declares that gaming in the area must be dead because he cannot find a game for some reason. Very quickly, the community jumps in and points out that school just started back, so summer is still in swing, and he is asking for a highly specific set of games. This all means it's going to be harder, and to have some patience, because, things take time. These things take time. There are plenty of games and events coming up, however. Next, he posts that he is one last time requesting a game. He once again lays out his preferred system, but now he elaborates a little bit. He wants D&D 3.5 over 5e because 5e is too power gamer friendly. Okay, just a slight little pause. For any of you who are not in the know about D&D 3.5, This particular statement is so ridiculous and outlandish because 3.5 is infamous for being hugely mega power gamey. Like anybody who thinks that D&D, that 5e or 5.5 now, I guess as we'll call it, is like, it caters way too much to power gamers and munchkins and whatever the fuck and stuff. Let it be known, 3.5 was way worse. 3.5 had way more things you could do, way more, like, to be fair, it was way more number crunchy, right? It took a lot more time, but it had access. Again, this is the edition that has access to 10th, 11th, and even 12th level spells, right? Just let that sink in. The highest level spell in vanilla 5e D&D is 9, and always has been. You know what I mean? They don't normally let you cast higher level spells, even though they technically do exist. 3.5 didn't have that same thing. It is infamous, especially for spellcasters. Spellcasters in 3.5 were legitimately godly at higher level, right? You get to higher levels, they could do anything they wanted, literally. People want to say that in 5.5 now, like, spellcasters are also super busted and broken. Yeah, I mean, you're a spellcaster at high level. You can start fucking with the, laws of reality and all that shit. But in 3.5, you could literally, like, become a god. There were legit, like, ways, like, mechanics and spells that allowed you to do that. It wasn't something you had to, like, homebrew, really. There was, like, legitimate shit you could do to become that. So that's just a little bit of an explanation of him saying that 5e is too power gamey compared to 3.5 is nonsense. So yeah, Opie continues. No, you read that right, and this baffled many of us too. He wants DCC because it's more dungeon delving and less power fantasy. He has had 19 games fall apart in less than a year, citing the worst horror story meme tropes you can come up with. Supposedly a player had a meltdown because they couldn't seduce another player character, and then another player character slashed into someone's tires for having different political beliefs, among others, and so on and so forth. So someone finally asks exactly what sort of game he is looking for. And the bottom falls out from here. I feel like it already fell out a long time ago, but sure. Instead of a simple answer, he writes an essay. The bullet points, read as follows. He's tired of power gamers and min-maxers. Well, he probably wouldn't like us very much. He is fed up with characters built for self-insert therapy runs. Interesting. He doesn't want games where players are obsessed over who they can seduce. He is sick of oversensitive D&D players. He doesn't want a safe space game. He doesn't want censorship. He wants racism. He wants slavery. He wants death and consequences. He wants, and I quote, tastefully done young people killing and SA.
Hmm.
Tastefully done. Is it just me, Sammy, or I feel like there's a bit of conflict. I feel like there's a bit of contradiction or conflict with pairing the term tasteful with, young people death and SA. That seems that I feel like those things okay, here. Well, let's keep going, finish real quick, and then we can circle back around to this. The mods were super quick to ban him from the group, as this rant went against the very core of our community stance. It also was about to unload a barrage of comments that would have gone pretty hard. Look, you can like dark themes, and you can play dark settings, but you should be accommodating and understanding of others, especially in a community-driven game. Also, him saying tasteful SA just hit wrong on so many levels. So, he got banned, issue solved, right? Nope! He started going to the individual store pages, posting his looking for game stuff, but now, with this added, I'm sick of perpetually offended D&D and Pathfinder players, which expects every game session to be a safe space or to be a self-insert therapy session to work through their issues. I got blocked from the RPG Society for saying that I hate censorship in games which have no stakes or intrigue. Note, I do have this post screen capped for reference. So, not sure what he was expecting exactly, but all the store pages have a serious degree of overlap with the RPG Society because we are in good with every store within our area. They come to us to host events, demos, game nights, etc. And happily, he got destroyed in the comments. People pointing out how he got banned, not blocked, and not for saying he hated censorship, but because he advocated for extremely dark and uncomfortable things in a quote unquote tasteful manner. Others pointed out he was coming off as a perpetual crybaby with main character syndrome. And of course, he pushes back, tells people they need mental help, says he never made a negative comment towards anyone, despite half the post being literally him being negative towards the very group he wants to play with. He then ended up deleting the post, and we are still waiting to see what he's going to do next. We know he didn't learn anything because he said this was the equivalent of being dragged over the coals for posting a bad review of a restaurant. Still deflecting. I would have to say we've seen the last, or I would like to say that we've seen the last of him, but I feel like more of this is to come in some form or fashion. End post. So yeah, what do you think of this one, bud? Thoughts, questions, concerns, derogatory comments?
Um, this is dumb. This is really dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost the plot the moment he complained about 5e being the power gamey one. But just taking that out of the equation and being like, all right, fine, not we won't make that argument. We'll do the rest of it. Um, no, no, just no. I think like so you're playing in what this seems to be a very community based, heavily community influenced. So lots of different people. It's supposed to be. I'm not gonna say a dumbed down or like lesser version of the game, but it's supposed to be more accessible, less harsh in certain aspects, more open for people to join who maybe haven't played or
Or just
aren't
anyone. I think
aren't they're not
it's
looking for the super nuanced shit.
not always. I mean, sometimes they might, right? I think
They might,
this
but
is
not.
basically a community that like gets together to create games for
Yeah,
for
yeah,
for
yeah,
people.
but fuck me, you're not gonna join a group for the first time and go, you know what I want? I want the real dark shit. I want to get real fucked up about it. Like
And
that's not.
yeah, right? And like again, like what I was gonna say before is like, yes, having a darker setting or a darker campaign, I think can be really cool. Don't get me wrong. I am not a person who would shy away from or like be like, oh, you can't have, elements of racism or slavery or death and consequences or other horrors in the world, right? Because that shit happens. That shit's real.
What, pray
And
tell, could be tasteful about sexual assault or
exactly,
anything to do with children?
exactly.
Because hey, you can do all sorts of fucked up shit in your D&D world to adults.
Yeah. There's
Hey,
there's
hey
and
guys, like I understand that it might happen occasionally, but maybe, just maybe, it not be a topic you explore because it's about children.
especially if it's again in depth, right? Why don't you just do it by like omission or off of the cellar, right? Be like an entire town got razed to the ground or destroyed, right? Like you see the remnants, you see like charred corpses
Yeah,
of men, women, children, or
that's good.
whatever.
That's good. You stop there.
That's fine.
Hey, like
You know,
I get it. You're
it's
like, oh, I
fine.
want this to be dark.
Yeah, it can be dark and grim.
I read
Yeah,
fantasy, whatever. I've read
sure.
books. I've read some really fucked up
Yeah, they
books.
get dark. They can get
Um,
real dark.
I'm gonna give a good example. Um, the Magician series, which is basically just Harry Potter for adults,
Yep.
toes the line quite
Yeah,
heavily,
yeah.
I
From,
think,
from
on
what I
what
recall, yeah.
from acceptable media. Another great example is The Child Thief, which is a weird dark folklore retelling of Peter Pan.
Mm.
Um, where like the adults get infected by like a weird zombie-esque virus and the kids are like murdering them.
Mm.
It's fucked up. Instead of it's Peter Pan is like a drug-addled young adult recruiting children into his child army. Like, yeah, what? Like, what are we doing
Yeah,
here?
that's
Yeah,
kind of intense. That's intense.
yeah, but guess what? You know what they don't really touch on? You know what they try to stay away from in all these things? Sexual
Yeah,
assault.
a lot of essay kind of stuff
You know,
here.
there's like that's just you just don't it's just not worth it.
There's
From like
no
a story
real
perspective, you're not gonna get
point.
anything out of it.
Yeah, there's not really much point in that. Like again, like any like if we again if we. So here's one kind of version, right? Where it's like, hey, the Alien franchise, right? Where like, you have aliens who literally like will take, hosts for their, species or whatever to whatever. Like, sure. You can have things like that where you're like, hey, this is a dark ritual that's helping to whatever the shit or whatever and stuff like that. First off, it doesn't have to be SA. It could be that people have volunteered for that because they're part of a cult or whatever. It doesn't have to be an SA kind of scenario. And even if it is, again, that's not something you have to deliberately, like, tastefully describe and showcase, okay? You subtext, all right? There's so much you can convey through subtext and just implications, right? They're very dark, very grim implications, but they're just implications, right? Yes, they can help elicit responses from your players and from you as a player to want to put an end to this thing. Cool. Why does it always seem like so many GMs and or players, I guess, too here, want to go so in depth with it? And here's the thing: if you're going to involve children or stuff like that, give the party the ability to stop it. Right? Give the party the ability to stop it before it happens like that. That would be the only real payoff that you should look for. Is, oh yeah, they're getting ready to sacrifice or do terrible things to children or women or whatever.
Yeah.
Give the party the time and the ability, the opportunity to stop it before it happens. Okay? That should be the only time you would use that as an incentive. Like, hey, light a fire under your players' asses and say, hey, this is going to happen here. You know about it. Go stop this ritual or whatever the hell it is, right? That's it. That's it, okay? There shouldn't be situations where anything should be described or you should be getting heavily, oh God, Jesus. Again, we love dark fantasy, right? Grim dark fantasy is a great staple. It's cool. It's freaky. It's weird.
And you can do that as long as that's the
And it's real. Again, it's meant to elicit those responses. But and again, I like perhaps maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe when he says tastefully done, perhaps maybe what he's referring to is what we're talking about in terms of like, it being maybe not described. Maybe. I don't know. Like, but I again, as always, we here at the Arcane Archive do our best to be as objective as possible, right? To see things, or at least one of us does anyway, to see things from the different perspectives, right? Playing devil's advocate, sure. I can understand, yes. I can understand wanting to be in a game where you would see things that happen that are a little bit more realistic, right? Being in a game where like, oh, well, racism doesn't exist here. Or, slavery doesn't really exist here. It's like, okay, sure. But that's not really a thing though, because that's how just life works too, to a certain extent, right? Like it's people that also like those elements can also offer a lot for people to learn how to grow and handle and navigate those things in an environment that isn't nearly as harmful, hostile, or risky, right? Yeah, logically speaking, you should have some people that are gonna, for whatever reason, be a bit racist or fucked up towards a particular demographic, right? Plus, certain characters, like when you make a character, like yeah, sometimes I want to make a character who's experienced that kind of thing because that it gives them perspective, it gives them character, it gives them the ability to rise above and overcome those kinds of adversities. Same thing, with all of that stuff, like. So there is a legitimate claim to be made in that regard for those particular things. But like OP very wisely states, he literally says, he's like, yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with liking grim dark stuff, right? You can like your dark themes and dark settings, but you should also be accommodating and understanding of others, especially in a community-driven game, right? That therein lies the biggest issue here. Is this guy clearly is has his head shoved so far up his own butt, his own puckering asshole that like all he can do is spout more of his own bullshit and hear his own bullshit and smell his own bullshit. Like you're a part of a community. It is a narrative driven game. And some people are gonna have certain veils and lines they don't want crossed. Everybody should, as a matter of fact, I do, Sammy does. Like it's like, yeah, like my thing is, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of things happening to children in games and stuff like that shit. I'm like, yeah, we don't need to do all of that. Or if it does, again, make it so we can help them. Or again, do it more so as subtext or an implication of something. You don't have to give me a huge descriptor of just like, yeah, they were literally. I'm like, no, I don't need all of that. But I understand. I'm also not opposed to that stuff. Being an element because like, okay, yeah, things happen. Bad things happen to everyone over the world. I can't, because it's just realistic. It's reasonable and fair. I shouldn't say like not reasonable and fair in the sense of it being like, okay, it's always fucking infuriating and aggravating, but it is in the sense of like that is what happens. You can't be everywhere. You can't stop all the bad stuff. Bad shit happens. And so it's like, yeah, fair enough. But goddamn, dude, like I don't know this guy. We don't know all the experiences he's had, but clearly he also comes across as a huge freaking narcissist who's unable to actually like legitimately and reasonably post his personal beliefs, thoughts, opinions, and feelings on shit. It's like, bro, be reasonable, man. I don't know what the hell you smoking, but I don't think I want any of it because that's just too much. Clearly, your brain is fried. Anything else about this one, buddy?
No, that's good for me.
All right, let's move on to the next one of the day then. Take it away. This one's a bit of a shorter one.
Yeah. I have level 1 character killed in a stealth roll by Nocturnos. Um, it's under meta discussion, so it's kind of I wanted to see what your opinion was of this because
Yeah, we getting a little bit of meta talk sneaking in here, a little bit of a slight little meta talks guest appearance.
maybe.
Yeah.
The party was going to rest for the night outside of a cave. So a couple of members started playing music. The Warforged that wasn't sleeping. My character was woken up and told that there was a dragon circling overhead. So he went to hide against one of the cliff faces near the cave entrance, but had a poor roll of 8. The rest of the party was eventually woken, and the dragon started circling. My character saw it descending on us, so he ran to go inside the cave. The dragon followed him to the entrance. The rest of the party saved on their stealth rolls, I guess. The DM halted my running to give the dragon time to blast me in the cave entrance with cold breath, instantly killing my character. The dragon then flew away when one of our other characters successfully used an arrow to drop some rocks on the dragon. If it was a measure of speed, I would have used my action surge or something, but no, just murdered essentially because the DM decided to random encounter a dragon on a party of level 1s and punish the only player who tried to seek cover / fix their situation. Oh well. I'm still a little torn up over it. I asked if there was anything I could have done differently to survive, and they basically said I should have run further into the cave. But I was stopped by them, so whatever. Lesson to DMs. Unless it's a blender campaign, this wasn't, make your player's death a result of intentional risks taken, not the random whims of your choices for encounters. Also, punishing another player for actions of a different one is really not good. He said the music attracted the dragon. And consider player intentions, especially when this character's life is on the line. Clarify in detail and ask questions about what they're trying to do. Oh, you just kill him that quickly into a game at level one. One of the top comments was on a positive side, you learned at level one that your DM is not worth playing with.
Yeah, that is legit too. It's like not even just a joke. It's legit.
People are like,
Like,
yeah, if the DM is going to send a juvenile dragon after every instance of music, OP's better off just walking away. By the way, if dragons are so omnipresent and aggravated by someone playing music, how the hell are bards going to work in this setting? I just, I love this. I want you to think very carefully before you take this path, child. It requires utter discipline and strength. Few can handle such duties, for you must be a real badass to take up the lute. Years of dedication and practice in soundproof booths, countless hours practicing with the blade and spell. If you make it through the test, you get to play outside for the first time. Half don't survive the ancient dragon that inevitably swoops in and reduces them to a stain on the town square. But those who slay the beast get to call themselves a bard.
that was actually very well done.
That's really good.
That's pretty damn good right there. I mean, what I'll say about this too, though, is like, I don't know the experience of this GM. I hope that he's a new one because at least that gives him slightly more leeway. But I will say, like, okay, I would like a little bit more context because he's saying, like, they were camping outside of the cave that they were in. How far away? What's the actual like environment kind of looking like here? Because again, like if they're right next to the cave, there's no reason that he shouldn't have been able to just run inside of the cave. Like he literally says that he went to hide against one of the cliff faces near the cave entrance. So again, how far away were they? Did he go away from the party? If the party made their stealth checks, like I don't really understand like what the thing is. And then he says that he ran to go inside the cave, but the GM then halted his running to give the dragon time to blast me in the cave entrance. What does that mean? Did he roll for initiative? Did dude was running and said like, okay, like how far did you run? Did you run 30 feet? You used up 30 feet to get to wherever. Okay, well now it's the dragon's turn. The dragon's gonna fly down and frost breath you, which is like, sure, mechanically speaking, I guess that makes sense. But also like again, I need a little bit more understanding, a context of what's going on here because too much of this is just way too abstract and unclear of what exactly even happened. And again, are all these people new players? It seems like they're kind of relatively new. I don't know. There's something about this where I'm just like, this seems a little weird. Okay, yeah. One of the commenters down below says, I assume this is a brand new GM. An experienced GM who acted like this would quickly find themselves lacking players. Probably still not worth sticking around with, though. OP responds, maybe. He's pretty good at other aspects, maybe just not so good at scale. I think what's really leaving me emotionally wounded is his character was a fighter who was a prodigy in their local town growing up. Heralded as a great warrior and soon to become an officer in the local guard. But when a young dragon came and assailed the town, all the other guards rushed to sacrifice life and limb. He ran and never went back. Ever since, dragons have terrified him, and he was seeking to redeem his cowardice in the past by becoming a true hero. Maybe one who could one day face a dragon and stand. Unfortunately, that had a chance to be revealed to up to that point, not even to the GM. So it's not like he knew. It just made the hurtful murder even more brutal. See, this something feels just kind of weird about this whole thing. I'm not gonna lie. Like something just feels kind of off to me about this whole thing. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like there's not for me personally. There's not enough context to give a real verdict on my opinion one way or the other. I feel like something's just not quite right here because it just doesn't. Some things just aren't measuring up or making sense to me. Like he only targeted OP's character. OP's character, some reason, even though even though you're right outside the cave, like, why would you rest outside of the cave instead of inside of it? And if you were gonna rest outside, why say you're resting outside of a cave if you knew that cave would I don't know. For me, there's something weird about this. What do you think about it, bud?
Oh, I'm really. I think it's hopefully an inexperienced DM because it just doesn't add up in my
I mean,
opinion.
that's true too. Like, if it's real, this GM is that was
Dog
stupid
shit.
as shit. That was stupid
Yeah.
as all hell. Like, that didn't make
What?
any goddamn sense.
Yeah. What really makes me sad is like, well, it's not even sad. It's just it'd be unbelievably frustrating. You can use high level monsters and things like that to scare level one parties. Don't actually have them interact. Like I don't. You made the choice to have the dragon land. You made the choice to have the dragon go after one player.
Well, even like when he says like his character was woken up and told there was a dragon circling overhead, and he's like the rest of the party was eventually woken up, and the dragon started circling. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what?
Oh,
You were woken up first, and the rest of the party wasn't? Like that
so if
doesn't.
you were woken up first, you didn't wake up your friends.
Yeah, and he's saying like you ran away. Like, I mean, I guess he's trying to maybe justify saying like my character was terrified of dragons, and it's like I don't know. There's just so much of this that feels weird to me, which is like, and he's saying lessons to GMs. Unless it is a Blender campaign, this wasn't. So it was conveyed to you that this wasn't like a Blender campaign kind of vibe. Like,
Yeah. I don't.
yeah, I don't know.
I
There
don't get it.
this.
Like, because there is a module in 5e where this happens
Hmm.
at the beginning of it, which is the Horde of the Dragon Queen, which is
Yeah,
arguably again one of the worst ones written.
fair.
But even in that book, it tells you, you know, your party has been dropped into this town that's being attacked by goblins. There's a dragon just indiscriminately destroying pieces of the town. But like it tells the DM like don't target the players. Do not target the players. The dragon
Yeah,
considers this beneath them.
yeah. I was
Do
gonna
not
say
fucking target the
why would
players.
it care? You're
Don't
not you're
target
bugs.
like
You're
just don't.
bugs to
Just
it.
don't. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, they're all level one, and apparently, like what like they don't say like what kind of dragon it was, like specifically like what age the dragon was. Like, it was like a dragon circling ahead overhead. So again, if it was like a wormling, they'd still be in pretty big danger, like at level one, basically. But still, it would still be like, yeah, I don't know, man. This just seems stupid to me.
It like it says attack the guards that are by, attack this. Like don't this is not fair. It's yeah,
Don't.
don't. It's not fair. It doesn't make any sense. Why did like this DM just like so he picked you out of everyone? Because that's what it sounds like. Your DM doesn't like
Well, I mean,
you.
like, yeah, like the OP is like apparently everyone else made their stealth checks, I guess, and I rolled an 8, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, again, like him saying like the GM like halted my running before I could get into the thing. It's like, what do you mean he halted it? What do you mean? Give some more context. How are we supposed to know what actually is happening if you're just saying like, well, I guess the others woke up eventually or something, and I guess they made their saves or their stealth rolls. I guess I don't know. And then the GM just like halted my running so that the dragon could catch up and breath attack me. And then I guess like it's like what like you're posting this on Reddit. You're posting this on Reddit so that you can get like a meta discussion, right? You're trying to figure out like, was this fair? Was this whatever? You have a meta discussion tag. Holy shit, bro. Be more like descriptive, please. What actually happened? Because right now it sounds like you're just like you're glossing over specific important context or information in order to make yourself seem more like sympathetic. Because it's like it doesn't make any fucking sense. What type of dragon was it? Okay, so the party was going to rest, and you say a couple of members started playing music. So that would imply at least 2 people were playing music. How many people were in your party? Because then you also say the rest of everybody else was woken up. You said that a couple of people were already playing music. You said it was a Warforged who wasn't sleeping. Is it a couple of people or just the Warforged? And you said that your character was woken up and told there was a dragon circling overhead. So then you immediately just hide against one of the cliff faces near the entrance, but had a poor roll of 8. So I assume stealth check. If the party is going to stealth check, you have a group stealth check. Usually works different than an individual stealth check. Okay, like, but just God, like this annoys me for a completely different reason. Where I'm like, bro, look, if you're gonna do this shit, man, actually have some legitimate real shit to tell us so that we can like have an actual idea of what the fuck's, because yeah, even the way he like immediately starts going into like, well, I think what's really leaving me emotionally wounded is this character was a fighter who was a prodigy. Like I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna be honest with you, my dude. Full disclosure, and it's gonna sound a little bit harsh. No one gives a fuck about that. Okay, good for you for your character's backstory that you made him like a gifted prodigy fighter who was heralded as a great warrior and soon to become an officer in the local guard and has a thing against dragons. Cool. What does that have to do with the story and the thing that you're talking about here? Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, you feel bad about it, but like, you're also not telling us like all the things that really happened, and if what happened was really fucked up. Like, you're just basically saying like, yeah, the GM just killed me with a dragon. Is basically what you're saying. You're not giving any context to what actually really at least not in my opinion, at least not in a really believable fashion, because it's just like so many shit. You're just like, I guess it's all so ambiguous. There's no real like description or what's the word? Not just description, but there's no real depth to it. There's no specificity. I'm like, what? Like, okay. Yeah, why didn't he let you run into because he told you to run further into the cave, and you're like, but I was stopped by them, so whatever. What do you mean you were stopped by them? What does that mean?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Did he make you roll initiative, like I said, and you took turns? Because then it would be more fair, understandable, where it's like, you have a 30-foot running speed. Did you choose to dash? Like, yeah, I don't know. I personally can't feel bad for this because I'm like, if it did happen in a fucked up way, like I think it's dumb. If a GM really did target one single level 1 player with like a young adult or even a wormling dragon, that's shitty and stupid, and that's messed up. Doesn't make any sense. But I also don't really understand a lot of this so-called decisions or things that happen on OP's part either, personally. But anything else you got about that one, bud?
No, I just was like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Let's move on then to the last one we have for you guys today, and this one is aptly titled, "Hey, apparently I'm not gay enough," by Warm Kitten. I mean, that seems like a pretty gay name to me if we're talking about whatever. So I joined this game a friend of mine was running because we had done D&D together a while back, and he was a bro. Hit the ground running at first, got along with everyone there. One of them, whom I hadn't met before, was Jess. Initially, we got along great. We both shared a story first, gameplay second kind of philosophy, and it was an absolute pleasure to be in a scene with her. I was playing a Dragonborn cleric, and I'd made the decision to base his religion loosely around Catholic theology and philosophy. Interesting decision. I feel like that could be potentially problematic, but that might just be my personal bias. This included his being celibate. Boy, do I hate having to introduce that about him, but sadly, it's pertinent. I'm lucky enough to live in a fairly left-wing part of the world, so I've always been open about my homosexuality. So, a few sessions in, I made some silly little self-deprecating joke, and Jess perked up like a dog hearing the can opener and said, "You're gay? Really?" And from then on, things took a turn. Now, it was subtle at first, right? But the way she treated me and the way her character treated mine changed. A lot of that earlier ease was gone. She had taken on a bizarre, ingratiating tone, which hadn't really been there before. and she'd bring up my sexual orientation perhaps a tad too much. Whenever she'd hear about my interests, i.e., sports and pro wrestling and noir movies and the like, there would be these odd little comments. Many of them weren't so bad in isolation, but taken together, they became rather strange. I particularly remember some comment about wrestling going, "Oh, I know why you like that," with an implied wink. Then her male character began flirting with my cleric. And while my cleric was flattered, they were also not interested for reasons cited above. We had an honestly lovely little scene where her character felt dejected but expressed that he really valued their friendship. And I thought it was really nice. But she kept doing it. It was at least once a session and frequently more than that. My character explained to her character, though it was also partly for her, that this wasn't okay and it made him uncomfortable, but that the lesson, unfortunately, ended up not taking. Things finally eventually came to a head when her character made some pretty nasty insinuations about mine being repressed and imprisoned by his religion. After that, their friendship soured. My character was still polite to hers, but it was pretty clear that they were work colleagues only at that point. Jess was not fond of that and asked why I was avoiding her for her doing what her character would do. There it is. We got it, y'all. I said that that was grand and all, but that I was doing the exact same thing. Booyah! See? We love it. We love it. We love it. The whole rules for thee and not for me bullshit gets absolutely destroyed in the face of yes, acolytes, apprentices, take notes from the OP here. When someone wants to act a fool and be a B and be a D and have all this crap that they do all in the name and justification of it's what my character would do, then guess what? What would your characters do in response to that, right? If that character is putting them in danger, making things inconvenient and frustrated and annoyance and risking all this stuff, how would you react to that in real life? What would your character, and even if you didn't react to it in real life, what do you think your character would react to it in the game, right? Think about that. If someone wants to play that game, then we can play that game. Continuing on. Listen to take, I was doing the same thing. Repeated unwanted sexual overtures and direct insults to his faith ain't gonna bring these people closer together. From then on, her character became consumed with this desire to knock and badmouth and denigrate my cleric's faith at every turn. Out of character, she went on bizarre anti-theist rants. I am not religious, but wow. GM and I would sometimes talk sports during the breaks, and she'd sigh loudly enough for us to hear. She then upgraded to knocking me personally. Among these, I didn't get a reference to some pop star she'd said or that she'd made, and she said, "Wow, are you actually gay?" Now, from anyone else, that may have actually been pretty damn funny. But with her behavior towards me, it seemed kind of like an attack at this point. It made everyone uncomfortable at the table, at least. Finally, the GM had to tell her to ease up, and she said outright that she was just trying to help me, and that I was a self-hating gay who was clearly repressed and making excuses. She cited my cleric's religiosity and my own general predilection for more masculine interests. GM privately offered to kick her, but I wasn't keen on being the interloper who broke up a happy group, so I just left. Whole thing left a bad taste in my mouth anyway. End post. Well, first off, straight off the bat, OP, like, why would you say you want to break up a happy group? Like, I mean, if she's really being that freaking weird and shitty, like, I don't think that they necessarily would want her part of that group anyway at that point. If it's just like, whoa, she wants to talk about some repressed shit. I feel like she's got some repressed stuff that she's trying to work through here, man. Like, I feel like she is heavily projecting right now onto OP. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? What do you think about this one, Sammy?
It's really weird. I mean, props to this person for knowing what they're about, doing what they want to do, um, and then that's it. That's all it has to be. But and they weren't like throwing it in other people's face or I don't know, like
Like this.
not making it their characters only
Yeah, or they're
thing.
this is the thing, right? What's hilarious about this situation is so many people. I've had many friends who are gay, and they're just normal people, right? I think we've used this reference before, but like there's a sketch by Key and Peele who I think showcases and summarizes this so fucking perfectly, where Keegan is portraying like a very like uber gay, like, overtly flamboyant gay dude who's rather obnoxious about it and everything. And Jordan is playing another gay person who's just a normal person. And Keegan's character, starts taking offense to Jordan's character, believing that they're heterosexual, thinking that they're offended and or having or having like, being homophobic towards them because of it. Until right at the end, you see that Jordan's character is also gay and has a boyfriend. And Keegan's character like kind of turns around and goes like, "Oh, okay. So he wasn't homophobic. I'm just an asshole." Like,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. It's not about you being gay. It's about the fact you're a dick. No pun intended.
Yeah, I
That's
also like
like
I don't think there is a need.
it's like this it's like this woman here wanted OP to be the stereotypical obnoxious flamboyant gay dude and like began to take offense to the fact that he wasn't. Like, he is just a normal guy who's also gay. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, oh my God. How does that, like, again, that's why I can't help but feel like I can only be like, it feels like maybe she's projecting a little bit. You want to talk about that you're being like repressed or you're being like whatever, like, are you sure maybe you aren't feeling that little way about something here? Because I really don't see why else you feel the need to have to inflict your belief or your version of what a gay guy is supposed to be. Like, I love the top comment down here too. Literally goes like, "Yeah, sorry, OP, you didn't say slay once in this whole story, so I'm gonna have to confiscate your gay card." Like, perfect. That is a perfect representation of what this woman was legitimately thinking of. Like, wow, okay, okay. So he's not gay because he didn't. Okay, sure, because he likes sports and stuff. That's quote unquote traditionally masculine. It's fucking sports, man. Anybody can like it. It's I get it. I understand what you're trying to say is, oh, it's traditionally more of a masculine pastime, whatever the fuck. Plenty of other people like it. You don't have to be like a testosterone filled, induced, having barbell balls, dude, to enjoy that kind of shit. What, like, Jesus, bro? What the fuck is wrong? Make it make sense, Sammy. I just don't get it. I just don't. I don't understand. I don't understand why people can't just let people like shit. Like, ooh, there's another commenter that says, as a masculine bi guy, I get this. Sorry I have to deal with someone who just doesn't understand how it is. And dude goes like, yep, gay guy who's into sports and drag, and I've definitely gotten shit from both ends. Why can't people just let people like things? Like, I love that. We're just like, yeah, like what? Like, love sports and drag, but then you get dragged for it on both sides? Like, what? Why? Why does that matter? You know what I mean? Like girls and women should be able to like sports, video games, whatever, other things that are considered to be more traditionally for the more male demographic. Sure. Maybe that is true that it is more like on average, just statistically speaking, males are more likely to be interested in those things. Sure. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed to like it too. Doesn't mean that it has any reflection on their personal whatever. Same way that guys should be like, hey, you know what? I like to take care of myself. I like to, put on like cologne or perfume, or I like to, like maybe add some makeup, maybe to like, add some extra kind of whatever. Like that doesn't have to make him gay or like that shouldn't have to have any effect on his masculinity. It's like you just that stuff can still be great and nice and cool too. Jesus, like what, like what? Yeah, literally, for what this commenter said. I've never understood the whole thing of gatekeeping. I really haven't. What do you think about gatekeeping, Samuel? Like what, like, where do you think that mentality comes from? Exactly.
Not just people being petty and wanting something for themselves. Um,
Like, like wouldn't because I feel like that contradicts the whole aspect of how much people want to belong somewhere, though. That humans, by their very nature, do seek, groups and community
well, I think
and
by very
connection.
nature, people search for groups, yes, but more than often than not, it's power and being able to hold that over somebody else.
Mm.
There's that phrase, "Absolute power corrupts absolutely," and it's we're talking about a fucking D&D game. It's not. This isn't like where power comes to die, but there are a lot of instances where it's like people just all of a sudden they have one thing up on somebody else, and it's like, well, I want this more than anything, and I'm willing to be fucking wild for it. Because that's just how people are, I guess. I don't know when we kind of took that leap as the human race. I'm pretty sure it's probably the moment we figured out how to use tools. Someone was like, "I have the best one. Fuck you." Um, so it's not surprising. Uh, People will let those worst parts of themselves out, especially in a tabletop game or in anything that they consider to be theirs, right? I think people
Yeah.
become very possessive, whether it's of other people, whether it's of a character, power at a table, social credit. And it's something that we run into a lot with a lot of these stories is like people being like, no, this is how I'm going to do it because that's how I should do it. That's how I want it to be, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, dude, fuck off.
Indeed. Well, y'all heard it best from here, yo, at the Arcane Archive. I do believe that that's all that we've got for you today. You want to take us out, Sammy?
Yeah, I can. Those of you who stuck around, or anyone in the future who tunes in on this video, thank you very much for listening to us. Speculate, argue, whatever you want to call it. Even if it's just the reading bits. Hopefully, if you like this kind of content, you'll stick around. We enjoy getting together to do this. This is by no means my job or
No.
what I plan for in the future, but it is something fun that I get to do with my very best buddy over here, Adam. Um,
Right back at you, man.
and I sometimes I'm just the extra that Adam's like, well, I need someone to talk to, so bring this guy in. So I'll say, it's a chance for us to catch up and us to talk about the stuff that we like. Whether that's the videos we have on like the classes and the building of characters and even just the lore bits that we have back when we did all the videos about dragons and demons and devils, giants. Those are it's nerdy shit that we get to be like, let's talk about numbers. Let's put
Let's
numbers together on
get
on
all
a table.
mechanical
Yeah,
with this shit. Let's get all
you
technical.
know,
Oh,
yeah. There's someone who just absolutely despises math. It's a very good opportunity for me
same.
to just shoot the shit about something that we both enjoy. And I just hope that if you also enjoy those things, and you enjoy being the weird third person in the room looking through that scrying eye, um, that you can leave a comment, even just a like on the video. It all helps a lot. Even just to get this out to more people that might enjoy it. Um, but with all that said, thank you very much, and we hope to see you again soon down in the archive.
So long, y'all.
Bye, everybody.